And so I have multiple big men in the room. I'm 5'5", don't have my phone, and they're like, okay, take your clothes off. Michael Pratt needs a picture.
They promised fame, quick money, and anonymity. But what they received was abuse, humiliation, and an international fraud that destroyed lives. The girls' case became one of the most shocking judicial investigations of the past decade, standing on the thin line between digital commerce and human exploitation. What seemed like just another adult video site was, in reality, the front for a criminal empire worth over $17 million, designed by Michael Pratt, a man who turned the ambition of young models into his most profitable business using deceptive contracts, false promises of privacy, and the coldest manipulation. In this episode, we will reveal how the trap worked, the suffering of the victims, and the fall of this multi-million-dollar empire, stories of deceit, coercion, and justice that prove that behind the screen of an adult website, the worst human abuses can be hidden.
From like 9 p.m. till 4 in the morning, I was they took breaks and told me I had to refilm scenes. I tried to run naked from the hotel room at one point. I was physically shoved back, and there was someone outside of the door. I didn't even make it to the door. I said, "Fuck you, I'm not doing anything else."
Right.
And they're like, "Oh, then we'll put everything on the internet that we have right now with your full name, or we'll send it to your parents. Do you want them to find out?"
Michael Pratt, born in California, presented himself as an entrepreneur in the adult entertainment industry. In 2009, he launched girlsdo.com, a website that quickly became a giant in the casting video market, promising young models the opportunity to debut in the industry with professionalism and anonymity. Behind that facade of success and glamour, Pratt built an empire founded on deception, manipulation, and exploitation. The recruitment was designed to deceive from the very first second. Girls Do wasn't looking for real models. It was looking for victims willing to believe in false promises. To achieve this, the operation used carefully crafted ads on platforms like Craigslist, targeting areas near universities and cities across the United States and Canada. The ads offered what appeared to be a legitimate opportunity: clothed modeling, completely hiding the true nature of the job. To reinforce the illusion of professionalism, Pratt and his team operated a network of fake modeling sites, Begin Modeling, Modeling Gigs, and bubblegum casting that gave credibility to the process. Only when the young women responded and got in touch with recruiters like Michael Pratt and Ruben Andre Garcia did the truth come to light. The job involved filming adult videos. At the core of the fraud was the promise of absolute privacy. The models were assured that their videos would never be published online and that they would only be distributed on private DVDs or overseas, far from the United States. The recruiters repeated over and over again, "No one you know will ever find out." This promise wasn't just a lie, it was the central bait that kept Pratt's business alive, built around an obsession with each model's first time. When doubts arose, the conspirators deployed their most effective weapon, the reference girls. Women who had already been deceived were used to contact potential victims, falsely assuring them that their videos had never been made public. It was pure psychological manipulation, social proof weaponized in the service of fraud. And as if the deception wasn't enough, the payment offered, between $1,000 and $6,000 per session, was presented as an irresistible incentive, especially for young women in vulnerable financial situations who never imagined that this golden opportunity would become the beginning of a nightmare that would mark their lives forever.
They were promised a certain amount of money. Oftentimes they did not get paid that amount of money. They were promised it was only going to be 30 minutes. And you heard from these women, it was never 30 minutes.
When the young women arrived in San Diego for their supposed modeling sessions, what seemed like a professional opportunity turned into a carefully designed trap. The filming took place in hotels or short-term rentals, and from the very first moment, the rules of the game changed. They were made to sign complex or misleading contracts that never truly explained what would happen to the videos. What was supposed to be a brief 30-minute session routinely turned into marathons lasting up to 9 hours, a deliberate first step in eroding the victim's will. The coercion tactics went beyond verbal deception. They were psychological, financial, and at times physical. The women were threatened with having to pay for their own return flights, cover their accommodation costs, or face expensive legal action if they refused to complete the filming. Matthew Isaac Wolf, Pratt's partner, and producer Ruben Andre Garcia personally oversaw these manipulations, even instructing other employees, like cameraman Theodore Gai, to lie about the distribution of the videos if questioned. In some cases, coercion became physical. It was documented that some women were not allowed to leave the room until the video was completed, while the filming crew blocked exits, creating an atmosphere of confinement and helplessness. This abuse of logistical and financial vulnerability, combined with legal and financial threats, not only humiliated the victims, but elevated the fraud to a crime of through coercion. Consent, manipulated and maintained under threat, held no legal validity, and each session became a chain of exploitation that scarred the lives of hundreds of young women.
One woman tried to run out of the hotel room nude, and they restrained her and brought her back. One tried to jump out a window. They're just horror stories.
The fraud reached its peak when the videos, despite all the guarantees of privacy and limited distribution, were massively uploaded. Approximately 1 month after filming, far from the promise of anonymity, the true goal of the business was total exposure. To maximize traffic and paid subscriptions, Pratt ensured that clips from the videos were shared on major free sites such as the Girls Do channel on aggregate platforms reached the top 20 worldwide, amassing approximately 680 million views. The consequences for the victims were traumatic and immediate, destroying the very privacy that had been promised to them. Many were publicly identified by family, friends, or employers, resulting in harassment, job loss, and social rejection. Court testimonies documented a litany of lasting effects: severe diagnoses of post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, anxiety, and depression, attempts, substance abuse, and even cases where victims changed their names or underwent cosmetic surgery in desperate attempts to erase the public identity tied to their videos. The victims faced trauma that went far beyond public humiliation. During Pratt's sentencing process, it was revealed that at least the 15 women who appeared in girls' videos had died by or other causes. In the years following the release of their content, this human toll underscored the brutality of the fraud. When victims pleaded with the site's operators to remove the content, their requests were systematically ignored or denied. The scheme behind Girls Do, built on deception and manipulation, proved to be extraordinarily profitable. Through subscriptions on Girls Do and its sister site Girls, the operation generated more than $17 million in illicit revenue. While the victims endured shame, trauma, and emotional ruin, Michael Pratt and his team enjoyed a life of luxury financed directly by human exploitation. The connection between fraud and profit was clear. The lie about privacy was the bait that lured victims in, and the mass public exposure was the mechanism that monetized their suffering. The staggering profits contrasted sharply with the irreversible damage inflicted, becoming a dramatic centerpiece of the judicial case. The first crack in the Girls Do empire appeared in the civil courts. In 2016, a courageous group of 22 women, identified as Jane Doe's number, 1 to 22, filed a federal civil lawsuit in California against Michael Pratt, Matthew Wolf, Ruben Andre Garcia, and the shell corporations used to operate the business. The plaintiffs alleged intentional misrepresentation, fraudulent concealment, false promises, misappropriation of name and likeness, and deceptive business practices. After an extensive 99-day trial that began in August 2019, the court ruled decisively in favor of the victims. In January 2020, the judge ordered the defendants to pay a total of $13 million in compensatory and punitive damages to the 22 plaintiffs. This historic civil victory not only recognized the immense harm suffered, but also legally established the pattern of fraudulent and coercive conduct, providing a strong foundation for subsequent criminal prosecution. Based on the overwhelming evidence of systematic fraud, the U.S. Department of Justice filed serious federal charges. In 2019, Michael Pratt and his co-conspirators were indicted for force, fraud, and coercion, as well as conspiracy to launder monetary instruments. Facing criminal justice, Pratt fled the United States, traveling first to New Zealand and becoming an international fugitive. In 2022, he was placed on the FBI's 10 most wanted fugitives list.
It doesn't undo the damage, and it doesn't give back the years that he's stolen from not only my life, but from so many lives of all of the women.
The search came to an end in December 2022, when, thanks to international cooperation between agencies, Michael Pratt was arrested in Madrid, Spain, and later extradited to the United States to face 19 charges, including and production of. His capture sent a clear message: a fugitive cannot escape justice for crimes of human exploitation, no matter the borders. The federal criminal trial concluded with severe sentences, reflecting both the gravity of the exploitation and the legal classification of the scheme as. The sentencing hearings were marked by emotional victim testimonies in which women described the trauma, fear, and shame inflicted by Pratt. Michael Pratt, sentenced in September 2025 to 27 years in prison for orchestrating trafficking scheme. More than 40 women testified against him. Ruben Andre Garcia, lead recruiter and actor, sentenced to 20 years in prison for conspiring to recruit victims through fraud and coercion. Matthew Isaac Wolf, partner, operations and finance, sentenced to 14 years in prison in March 2024 for his role in the conspiracy and for overseeing the financial entities used to sustain the fraud. Theodore Guy, a cameraman, sentenced to 4 years in prison for his participation, including lying to victims under Wolf's direction. These convictions not only represent justice for the victims, but also set a clear legal precedent. Psychological fraud and economic coercion are forms of exploitation that fall under the legal definition of sex trafficking. The case demonstrates how civil and criminal justice can work hand in hand. The civil lawsuit exposed the evidence, and the criminal action punished the perpetrators, sending a powerful message about the end of impunity in human exploitation crimes. The Girls Do Porn case isn't just about a multi-million-dollar fraud. It's about hundreds of women whose lives were scarred by abuse and exploitation. Justice was served, but the pain of the victims remains, leaving behind wounds that will never truly heal. Thank you for watching until the end. If this story moved you, don't miss our previous video about Tanya Head, the fake 9/11 survivor, another chilling story of lies and manipulation that left a lasting mark on so many lives.